Hello, my name is Andrea Mason, and I am going to show you how to create interactive phonics activities in Google Slides. I've used Google Slides for word work this past year in my first grade classroom. It's been a really great way to integrate technology to keep my kids engaged and motivated. And so I want to show you um, two different activities that I've done with Google Slides with my students. Now, sometimes we project these onto the smartboard, and the kids can use the interactive pen and they can do it on the board. We can do it whole group, or kids can work on it together. I've done it that way. I've also loaded these onto Chromebooks for students to work on while I'm teaching small groups. And then I've done a little bit with Google Classroom. I plan to do a lot more with Google Classroom in the upcoming school year. But you can also assign these to your students in Google Classroom, and then it will save the work that they do for you to look at later on. And so I think that's a really great way to utilize this as well. But there are several ways that you could use it with your students. So I'm going to show you how to make first a phonics picture sort. And so this one I've done with my students, and this is when we were working on soft C and hard C. And so it's very simple. They look at the pictures, they say the word, they decide if they hear a soft C sound or a hard C sound in the word, and then they can just drag and drop the picture into the correct column. And so my students, they've done these word sorts so many times that when they see this on the Chromebook, they're able to look at it and already know what they're supposed to do, which makes it a really great activity for them to work on while I'm teaching guided reading groups, because they don't need my help. They can do it independently. And so they're able to stay on task and not interrupt me when I'm teaching. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these. Very, very simple. You go into your Drive and you're going to click on New and choose Google Slides. And so when this comes up, the new presentation, I usually just delete what's on there. And so you have to decide what you want in this sort. How many columns do you want? What skills do you want your kids working on? So I usually make most of mine with just two choices to sort, because it helps the kids to be able to do it independently if there are not a lot of options for them to get confused with. So if you want to change your background color, you can right-click, choose Change Background, and then you can choose a color that's here. That just gives it a little more appeal to the kids when there's some color there. So next you're going to insert your table to get your columns. And I do a 2x2 so that I can have some space for the titles. So you're going to make your table whatever size you want it. And you can leave some room at the top to put some instructions if you want to, or if your students don't need the instruction reminder, you can put this table all the way to the top. It's just up to you. If you want to add your titles, you can choose what font you want. And then this is where you're going to put the titles for the columns that the children are sorting the activity of the pictures into. So for this one, let's do short A and long A. We'll do that. So you can just choose your font. You can center these, make them whatever size you want. If you want to put a box for directions, you can insert a text box above here and just type in whatever information you want your kids to have. And again, you can mess with that font, make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want. Okay, so I have my two categories, short A and long A. And so then you're going to need some clip art. Now I have a lot of clip art on my computer already that I use for creating other things for my classroom, creating projects for my Teachers Pay Teachers store. So you can, if you have clip art on your computer, then it's very easy to insert that. But if you don't, you can always grab something from Google Image Search because you're using this for your classroom and you're not selling it or anything like that, then there's not as much to worry about as far as copyright. But if you were creating something to sell, then of course you wouldn't want to just grab anything off of Google Image Search. You have to be a lot more careful about what you're using. But the clip art that I have on my computer, I've purchased and I have permission to use it how I want to. So if you have clip art that you want to use already, you would go to Insert Image and you would go to Upload from Computer. And then you would know where you have it stored and you could pull it up. So I'm going to want some clip art with short A sounds, some with some long A. So I could pull the cab and then resize it just using the boxes there. If you want to make sure it's, not too big, you can kind of get a feel for the size in there and then put it off to the side because you're going to have all of your pictures here on the side. So I've got a cab and you're going to just do that again, finding some clip art on your computer. There's a bag and we'll use a tag. And again, you want to resize those. You can also reposition, whatever you want to do with that. And it's up to you how many pictures you want to have for each side. You just want to make sure that you don't put too many so that they don't fit. Otherwise, the kids will be running up to you saying they don't have enough room and interrupting you. And that defeats the purpose of an independent word work activity. Let's grab a couple of long A pictures. I have grapes. That's a good one. So you get the point how to grab it from your computer. It's very simple. If you have clip art already stored on the computer, it's very simple to grab it and insert it into the slide. Now, if you wanted to get some pictures from Google, ideally you want to grab some images that have a transparent background. A lot of times those are a PNG instead of a JPEG. But since this is just being used for your students and they're not usually too picky about what the clip art looks like, if you do grab some with a white background, just know that behind your picture, if you have a colored background, there will be a white box. If you leave the background of your slide white, then that's not going to matter as much. But it really is just personal preference. So if you wanted to insert image again, you can search the web here, and there's a little box that pops up. So let's say I wanted to find an acorn. If I want a transparent background, I can say a PNG, and sometimes that will bring some up. There's a good one there. I'm just going to click on it and say Insert. And there it is. And it does have a transparent background. If I pull up the clip art and I decide I don't like it, I can just delete it. Very simple. All right, let's grab a short A. Let's do bat, PNG. And that one also has a transparent background. So that's a good one too. All right, so you're going to just get as many pictures as you want to have in your sort. It's completely up to you. And then when you're finished, you make sure you give it a title here. Short A, long A, picture sort. And it is automatically going to appear in whatever folder you're in when you selected the new presentation. So mine is just here in my main drive. But if I wanted to move it into my word sort folder, I could do that there. Now, if you're going to use this with your students where you just pull it up for them on a computer, you don't want them to manipulate the graphics and the pictures in your original sort activity, because then, if they delete a picture or something like that, then you have to go back and fix it and make another one. So what I like to do if I'm going to project this on the board or open it on a student's Chromebook is right click and go to make a copy. And then I open up the copy and I let them manipulate the images and sort the images in that one. And then that way, if something happens, they delete it, they mess it up, I still have my original untouched, and it's ready to go for the next student to make a copy for that student. So I have my copy here. So they can just open it up. They can drag and drop. If I have students, if I'm not using Google Classroom and I'm able to come and check their work, they can call me over. I can check their work. I've also had students grab a tablet and take a picture of the screen. And then if you have Seesaw or another online portfolio, they can upload it to that, or they can just take a picture of the screen and I can check it later. Or if you're just having them do it for practice and you're not as concerned about checking it, you don't necessarily have to check it, but it's just completely up to you how you want to use it. Okay, the other activity that I do very often with my students, it's not really one that you can create from scratch unless you have clip art for letters, and they're blue and red like the magnetic letters. But if you have clip art, you could do one of these from scratch. But I have a template that I've shared that you can use if you want to make one of these for your students. And so this is what I use for spelling practice. And so I have a lot of these that I've already created. And so I use these just like I do the other one. We project it, or I put it on the Chromebooks, and then also they can be used in Google Classroom. And my students really love these. Something that we do with this, we do whole group, they'll get whiteboards, and so like this one is spell the word cab, and they can write it on their whiteboard, or if they have their own set of magnetic letters, they can manipulate the letters on a cookie sheet or a pizza pan, and then I can have a student come up to the board with the pen and move the letters over and spell the word. So this one is pretty easy to see what to do. They just pull the letters over and spell the word. So if you've assigned this in Google Classroom, they can go through all the slides and spell the word, and then it will save it for you to go ahead and check later on. So this is a great way for them to practice their spelling. So I have a template that I've made, and I have on here, it says please make a copy before using, because you don't want to take your template and go ahead and make your spelling activity and then no longer have a blank template. So make sure you make a copy before you use it. So once you open up your copy, you can delete this first slide that says please make a copy. So you're going to delete that. And then here it says delete this text and import a clip art image into this space. So this is just a reminder of where your clip art's going to go. So if I wanted this one to be short O spelling practice, and I'm going to use clip art that have short O. So if I want to duplicate my slide, I would right click, duplicate slide, and I would do that for as many slides as I want in this activity. So we'll just do 5 for now, but usually I do about 10, depending on how much clip art I have or can find for the specific sound or spelling chunk that we're practicing. So you can also change the background of this one as well. Change background and put a different color if you want to. You don't have to. You can leave it white, but if you wanted to, you could. And so you're going to insert an image just like you did. You can upload from your computer if you have clip art. This is going to be a short O. So I could use dog. And you're just going to resize. Put the clip art on the top, and then down at the bottom is going to be the space where they can drag the letters over and spell. If I wanted to use an image from Google, I would do it just the same way I did with the other one. Let's do hop. Oh, well, hop might be a harder one. You could do like a rabbit for hop. Let's do frog. Let's see, he's pretty cute. So we're going to insert him and resize. Now, frog, F-R-O-G, has one, it does not have any duplicated letters, but if you had a word that had like 2 G's or 2 F's, you could easily pick the letter that you need 2 of, right click, and you could copy and then right click and paste, and that would give you 2. And then I like to put it where it's kind of on top of the other one. And that way, if they use one of the F's, the other one is there behind it. So you could do that like if you were doing words that end with LE and you used waffle and you needed 2 F's, you could do it that way. So once you have all of the slides that you want, if you wanted to make a title slide, you would insert a new slide, and there's a blank one, and you could change the background, and you could put short O spelling practice, whatever you wanted to put there for your title slide, much like the ones that I have here where I made the title slide, and then I put down here the words that are in there, so that like if my co-teachers were using this and they weren't sure, like this one is for dry, but you may not be sure when you look at it, so they could go back and check the front and see here. If you think your students are going to use this to copy and to cheat on the words, then you could always make sure you don't have it there for them to see. But I haven't had any issue with that with my students. And the last thing I wanted to remind you of, when your students are using these, you do not want them to use it on presentation mode, because on presentation mode, they're not able to manipulate these letters. When they click on them, it just goes to the next slide. So these are activities that need to be used in edit mode, not in presentation. So just make sure you remember that when you're using this with your students. So those are just two examples of interactive Google slide activities that you can make for your students for word work and for phonics. My students have done a really great job with these. I've used them, I've made some for science activities, for social studies, for wants and needs. You can do them for math, different activities for math, shapes. There are all kinds of things that you could do with these. So, just think about something you would do with paper and think about how you can translate that onto a Google slide and integrate some technology into your classroom. So if you have any questions or any comments or concerns, you can always email me. My email is andrea.mason@barrow.k12.ga.us, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.